Romans 12:9-13. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affection, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. May the Lord bless the reading and the hearing of his word.
Well, good morning again. In his defense, Zach is just off a mission trip with a whole bunch of kids, so we get it. I get it anyway. So as we reflect on the text that you just heard, we hear from Paul's words a profound mission that God has granted each of us as believers in Jesus Christ. Romans 12:9-13 provides a powerful blueprint for living a life of purpose. In this passage, Paul outlines the core principles that define our Christian mission, calling us to embody sincere love, unwavering commitment to goodness, fervent service to the Lord, and joyful hope. Today, the sermon will be shared by Ashlea, some of our youth just returning from their mission trip to Charlotte, North Carolina, and me. I'll talk a bit about what Paul is teaching us about mission. Then Ashlea will explain why we must hold on to hope as we explore our purpose. And then the youth will join us to talk about what they learned and what impressions Charlotte left on them. We hope that you leave today with some questions about why we're here as a community of faith and about exactly what God might be calling you to do on God's behalf. Paul's appeal to the Romans in Romans 12:9-13 begins with this fundamental command. Love must be sincere. This sincerity in love is not merely a feeling or an emotion, but rather a guiding principle for authentic, sincere action. Our heartfelt and genuine desire to go out into the world and do good in the name of Jesus is the foundation of our mission as Christians. Sincere love requires that we hate what is evil and cling to what is good. This dichotomy of rejecting evil and embracing good is crucial to fulfilling our purpose as Christians. Our mission involves being devoted to one another in love and honoring one another above ourselves. This devotion and honor are not passive, though. They require a selfless attitude and active engagement with our communities. By placing others' needs above our own, we reflect Christ's love and fulfill our mission of being his hands and his feet on earth. In today's world, our commitment to mission takes on an even greater significance in the context of ongoing global crises. The Israel-Gaza war and the Ukrainian-Russian conflict have led to immense suffering, displacement, and loss of life. These wars are relatively recent, and they continue to be highlighted by the media. But there are other wars in other countries that have raged on for years and years and years with no media attention. Did you know that according to the Geneva Academy, more than 35 armed conflicts are currently taking place throughout Africa, 21 in Asia, 7 in Europe, and 6 in Latin America? As Christians, our mission calls us to respond to tragedies with compassion and action. Our response must be guided by sincere love and support for those afflicted by these conflicts. We must be advocates for peace and justice while providing practical aid to those in need. Reminders of our mission to fulfill God's work in the world are found throughout the Bible. Proverbs 3:27 and 28 reminds us, "Do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it's in your power to help them. If you can help your neighbor now, don't say, 'Come back tomorrow, and I'll help you then.'" In a text about the final judgment, the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 25, verse 35 says, "For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me into your home. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you cared for me. I was in prison and you visited me. Many immigrants and refugees flee violence, persecution, and economic hardship. They seek safety and a better life. While the U.S. is a country of immigrants, immigration often becomes politicized. But immigration is a moral issue that presents a profound challenge for the church. It also presents us with an opportunity. If we explore immigration through a biblical lens, our mission is to practice hospitality and extend a welcoming hand, recognizing that in doing so, we serve Christ himself. The biblical call to love the stranger is a direct mandate to integrate immigrants into our communities with love and respect. Locally, there are many ways in which we do participate in missions with our neighbors and with strangers. We've been collecting school supplies for the We Feed Them missional food pantry. I'm sure you all are anxious to visit the lemonade stand to support Isaiah 117 house. Our mission compels us to see the individuals we serve with as God sees them, with inherent dignity and inherent worth. Living out our mission requires a balanced approach, characterized by being joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. These three attributes, joy, patience, and faithfulness, are critical to persevering in our mission, especially when we're faced with challenges. Joy and hope keeps us optimistic and forward-looking, even in difficulty. Patience in affliction allows us to endure our own hardships with grace, trusting in God's plan. Faithfulness in prayer keeps us connected to God, seeking his guidance and his strength. These acts of kindness and generosity are tangible expressions of our commitment to God's mission. By addressing the needs of others and welcoming them with open arms, we embody the love that Christ exemplified. As we reflect on our mission, let us remember that mission is grounded in sincere love, active engagement, enthusiasm in service, and practical acts of kindness. Our mission is not just a set of tasks, but a way of life that honors God and serves God's people. In the face of global and local need, our mission becomes a beacon of hope and a testament to God's love in action. Now I'm going to turn this over to Ashlea so she can lead us as we explore hope and purpose.
I want you to think for a minute what happens when you fill a cup with more water than it can hold. All right, the water quickly rises to the top, it overflows, and it spills out all over the sides to everywhere. Well, the same thing that happens with this water in a cup can happen to us when we allow God to fill our life with hope and joy. See, when we become filled with God's joy and God's hope, we overflow to those around us. We overflow into their lives, and they begin to experience it. But we have to remember that hope is never based on our wishful thinking or positive feelings or even how much faith we have. It's not wrapped up in some program or some organization. It's not wrapped up in maybe a new job, bigger house, more money. Our hope is based on a God who is there, who has always been there, who promises to always be there. And he has shown over and over again that we can trust him. Romans 15:4 says, "For everything that was written in the past was written to teach us, so that through the endurance taught in the scriptures and the encouragement they provide, we might have hope." God uses the Bible to speak hope into our lives, and he expects us to share this hope with those around us. And as we're reading, we understand that the Bible provides us with patience and encouragement. And when we focus on God's promises, our hope begins to rise. We begin to feel joy, and we begin to see God's love and how God's working in the world around us. So the very best gift that we can give to others who may be lacking hope is to allow what we've been given to overflow into their lives. We let God use us, and we become his hands and his feet. And so if we're becoming his hands and his feet, what this means is hope is not passive. It is active. So passive hope wishes for something and then waits to see what happens. It wants something, but it doesn't work for it. It's like saying, I want a new job. I'm going to use this. My husband had been looking for a new job, but part of that process was he was actively looking. He was actively applying. He wasn't sitting there waiting for God to go, okay, here it is, right? We can't be passive. Active hope is about becoming active participants and bringing about what we hope for. Active hope addresses the moment we're in, whether it's economic upheaval, political tensions, poverty, war, homelessness, whatever it may be. Active hope strengthens our capacity to face this crisis. We become resilient. So the question becomes, how do we live a life of active faith? Well, first, we look for the places where God is already working, and we work with God in those places. I traveled with a team to Guatemala back in April, and one of the things that we stressed to this team when we went in is that we were going there to partner with the people who are already working with God there. We weren't coming in to fix something. We weren't coming in thinking we had the best solution. We were coming in to be participants alongside God because God is actively working in that community, and he was long before we had arrived. And so as I came back from Guatemala, that trip has been a great reminder that God is constantly at work around us. He's at work in us. He's at work in our hearts, in our minds. He's at work in our church. He's at work in our community. And even though we don't have to travel to another state or another country to discover all the ways in which we can work alongside God. I serve with the mission committee, and I think about all the ways from this small group who's working alongside Isaiah 117 to Mike and Tina Shipe, who work with the You Feed Them food pantry, and the Holtz who do Fletcher Place breakfast. They've all found a place where God is actively working in our world, and they have decided, I'm going to step in to God's work, and I'm going to become part of it. Because when we work with God, we begin to see the ways in which God's breaking into the here and the now. While we're working, God's not just sitting on the sidelines watching us. God is working too. And what God's doing the impossible, the things that we can't accomplish. And the second way we participate in active hope is we look back on moments. We reflect where we've seen God breaking through in our own lives. I'm sure we can all think of times in our lives when things were not easy. The odds seemed stacked against us. No matter what we did, we seemed to fail at it. And all the optimism in the world could not convince us it's going to be okay. I think this is probably what the disciples experienced on the day in which Jesus died. What we do know is that they experienced immense sorrow and fear. And while we know the end of the story, they didn't know the end of the story. All they knew in that moment was that Jesus had died. Everything was uncertain. Everything they knew to be true had changed in an instant. But in the darkest moment, Jesus showed up. And when he showed up, he brought hope back into their lives. He brought hope to their future. And the hope that he brought them is the same hope that you and I have today. Because Christ did rise again. Life was renewed, and there was a lot more to the story. And the story is still going on, and you and I are part of that story. Jesus Christ is our hope. And as we have our hope in him, we are called to proclaim that hope to those around us. So in the midst of pain and hurt, in the midst of uncertainty, we can rely on the truth in the resurrection of Christ. We can rely on our experiences of God breaking through in our own lives. And when things feel the darkest, we find hope knowing that Jesus is with us, that God's promises remain true, that God is actively working, and that He is leading us. Our hope is found in an unchanging God, a God who has spoken truth and who cannot speak anything other than the truth. Hope is the anchor that sustains us in our mission, giving us the strength to persevere and the courage to face the future with confidence. When we have hope, we begin to understand it's a gift from God. We want to share it with others around us. We can face the future with certainty. And one way that we do share hope with those around us is through service. And so I am going to invite some youth to come up and join me because we want them to share with you what they experienced this past week. Okay, I'm going to let you introduce yourselves, and I'm going to ask some questions, and you guys are going to answer. Just introduce yourselves. Yes.
Hi, my name is Debbie. I went on the mission trip. Hi, my name is Ainsley. I also went on the mission trip.
Hi, my name's Jillian, and I also went on the mission trip.
Hi, I'm Caleb. I'm going into my sophomore year, and this was a great mission trip.
I'm Emmett, and I'm going to be a freshman.
Okay, you can hold the mic. So whoever's going to answer, what did you guys do this week? Where'd you go?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, what'd you do?
Serve the homeless and people there.
We went to 4 different organizations. Let me make sure I don't mess anything up. We went to Roof Above, the Relatives, Beds for Kids, and the Tool Bank. And all of them work together, and some of them don't work with each other. But they all help provide resources for homeless people in Charlotte. We, as you can see in some of these pictures, like Beds for Kids, we made beds. At the Tool Bank, we organized tools for people to come and use them. At the Roof Above, or at the Relatives, we cleaned out and organized a closet that helped give people who needed clothes that they could just come, grab them, and people donated everything. So yeah, if anybody.
So what is one thing that surprised you about this week?
One thing that surprised me about this week was how many bonds I made with the people that came on the trip. Most of the people that went were from St. Luke's, and of course some here. And I was so shocked and surprised about how many friends I made during this trip. It was a really good experience.
I would say that I was most surprised by the actual amount of poverty in the area. It wasn't just all of our work sites, but all around. To me, it made our work much more realistic.
Okay, so what was difficult about the week?
I would say the last day was definitely the most difficult for me personally. As Ainsley said, we became very close with everyone here and the St. Lukers. during the drive down, nobody talked to each other. Like, we were just having our own little time. And by the end of the week, we were all laughing and having fun and playing games together. And it was sad to leave everybody and, like, go back to the real world.
One of the things that was really hard for me was the lack of sleep we got. Like, we were getting like 6 to 7 hours of sleep every night. And I feel like when we all got back, we slept a lot. So we were all tired.
Kind of going off of lack of sleep, another thing that was really hard was definitely the heat, because the weather was great. I'm so glad it didn't rain. We had beautiful weather. It was clear skies. But, I mean, we were working outside in these big warehouses, and I think everyone was sweating so much, and like walking into a room with cool air was like such a blessing after those long days, like working in the heat.
So where or how did you see God at work this week?
Can I go back to the first question?
You can go back to the first question.
Another thing that, talking about the heat, these warehouses that we worked in did not have any air conditioning. We had fans blowing the whole entire time. And you just really created a bond with these people because you were sweating and you were getting all this work done. And it was, and one of my leaders that went to St. Luke, she walked up to me and she goes, "I have a present for you." And I was like, okay. And she took me back into the main room, which had air conditioning. And we just spent like 30 seconds cooling off. And then we went right back to work, which was just a great experience.
Give me say the last question that I ask again. Where or how did you see God at work this week?
Okay. I had a few experiences with God this week. The first one is I saw God through every single person on this mission trip. We all were working very hard, and I did not see a single person slacking off or not doing what they were supposed to be doing. And you could tell that everyone wanted to be here and wanted to and had a mission and had God in their hearts. The second one was when we went whitewater rafting on Thursday. Me and Emmett were the only two to fall in, and it was actually really scary. I started panicking because one second I was in the boat, the next second my head is underwater, and all of the safety training had just left my mind. I was like, I don't know what to do. I need to somehow get to the top. And I was a swimmer, so I was like, I need to push off the bottom. And I was like, there's no bottom. I can't find the bottom. So God helped me and got me to my back. I don't know how that happened. It was a lot of adrenaline rush during that. But God got me to a position where I was safe and I was breathing. And I just was so thankful during that time.
One of the times I saw God this week was definitely during worship. We were all really tired, but we still all stood up and were worshiping with each other, and it was just a really good experience.
Before we started this little talk, we came here early, and Zach told all of us that we would have a hard time not talking about him up on this stage, but I'm going to do that right now. So somebody I saw on this mission trip that I saw God through was definitely Zach, and all the leaders that went on this trip, because they put so much work and effort into the trip, and all of us had so much fun. I think a lot more fun than we were expecting to, because I don't know about everyone else, but I was super nervous to go with all the St. Luke's kids, because I was like, oh, they're going to be mean, I'm not going to make any friends. But all the leaders made it such a fun time, and Zach was just a great person to have on the trip, and I always love having him around. So thanks, Zach.
So on Wednesday, a panel of speakers from the Roof Above organization came to speak, and there was one man named Mr. President Mr. President had a first-hand experience of homelessness because he himself had found himself without a home early in his life. He described homelessness as a hole and shared that he had found his way out of the hole. He then decided that he wanted to help other people escape their holes by sharing his story and showing them it was possible to escape. I don't think this could have ever happened without God working through Mr. President's life.
So, what is one thing that you want to remember from this experience?
Probably just the bus rides were really fun. I don't know. We got to know all the people there. I thought it was going to be so awkward, and turns out it wasn't, I guess. It kind of got weird for a little bit, but I guess.
One of the things I'll definitely take away from this trip is all the experiences that we had. We went to the baseball game, and I and my friend, we got to do the chicken dance in front of the whole stadium. And that was definitely something I'll always remember. And it was just such a fun night. And I think it was a really good idea to go to a baseball game and bond.
A few things I hope I never forget about this mission trip is that I went on the Mission Guatemala trip too with Ashlea and a couple other people, but going on this mission trip, which was my second one, like it really shows, like I knew it was going to be different, but every mission trip is different. And I'm so excited to be able to go on more and have new and different experiences and serve different people in different situations. And another thing I want to remember, I think actually Emmett said this on the trip, that he hopes that the people we got to know, that it's not one of those things where we hang out with each other and have so much fun for 1 week and then we just lose contact. So I hope that our little group chat lives on forever and that we can do more things with the St. Luke's kids in the future.
Anybody else? Well, let's give them a round of applause. So, thank you guys. You can sit down.